Alright, so now once you've mastered this technique, you're ready for our next factoring rule. Now remember, our first factoring rule is always pull out the GCF. Our second factoring rule has to do then with how many terms that you have. So if you have 4 terms, we're going to factor by grouping. That's what this is called. Okay? So let's jump in here and we'll explain as we go. We have x cubed plus 2x squared plus 5x plus 10. So now our first rule of factoring is always pull out the GCF. We do not have anything that is common to all 4 of these terms. So we have to continue on. Now because there are 4 terms, we factor by grouping. And what that means is we're going to regroup these items. I kind of make me a little squiggly line right down the middle so that I have 2 terms at the beginning and 2 terms at the end. Now look at each one of these separately. Just looking at the first 2 terms, what do they have in common? Well, they have an x squared in common. So now let's do reverse distribution out only on those first 2 terms. X squared times what would give you x cubed? Well, that would be an x. And x squared times what would give you a positive 2x squared? That would be a plus 2. Alright, now, so looking at that, we've done the first 2 terms. Now let's look at the second 2 terms. We have a 5x and a 10. What do they have in common? Well, they both have a 5 in common. So if we were to continue with the reverse distribution, 5 times what is 5x? Well, that would be an x. And 5 times what gives you a positive 10? Well, that would be a positive 2. Now, look at what we have. In both of these terms, we have a common x plus 2. We can continue factoring. If we pull out the GCF of x plus 2, what do we have left? Well, if we pull out the x plus 2 from the first term, we have x squared. And if we pull the x plus 2 out of the second term, we're left with a positive 5. This is how this polynomial factors. What you're doing basically is you're going backwards from the multiplication. You're saying, in the last chapter we looked at something like this and said, well, in order to simplify it, we would have to distribute and collect like terms, and we would end up with something like this. This whole entire chapter now is going backwards from what we've already learned.